East Hampton Town Board, we are live.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the East Hampton Town Board work session of Tuesday, February 11th. Carol, if you could please do the roll call.
Councilmember Flight.
Present.
Councilmember Lease.
Present.
Councilmember Rogers.
Present.
Councilmember Calder-Pima.
Present.
Supervisor Burke Gonzalez.
Present. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so today we start our meeting with public portion. We ask you please to kindly keep your comments to 3 minutes. And then we have a number of topics. The first is our finance division is going to be presenting their 2024 accomplishments and 2025 goals. We're going to hear from Neji Valera, the Deputy Town Budget Officer, our Jeannie Carozzo, our Senior Purchasing Agent, and Christine Schnell, our Receiver of Taxes. That'll be followed by a presentation from Assistant Town Attorney Charlie Collins on a proposed urban renewal modification for 840 Springs Fireplace Road. And then that'll be David Lease was playing cleanup here, and he will be giving a presentation on the Montuak Business District parking recommendations. That'll be followed by liaison reports and then resolutions. So we will start with public portion. I don't know if, Carol, if you had a sign out sheet out, but is there anyone here that would like to address the board? I don't see any show of hands. Jason, is there anyone on the line?
There's no callers on the line right now.
Okay, so we are going to move on to topics. So Patrick, if you could please get the presentation up, and we're going to start with Neji to present on accounting and payroll. Welcome, Neji.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. So I'm going to present the accomplishments and our goals for 2025 and accomplishments from 2024. The first item is our mission statement. The Finance Budget Office in East Hampton Town government is a multi-purpose and vertically organized under the direction of the Town Budget Office. The Finance Budget Office has a fiduciary responsibility to the residents and taxpayers of the town of East Hampton to ensure all matters involving town finances are executed in a transparent and professional manner, adhering to all accounting and management standards established by the state and federal governments, as well as the professional organizations in the areas of accounting and municipal finance. The Finance Department received the Certificate of Achievement Financial Reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA, for the 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 21, and 2022 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. Our 2024 accomplishments. We maintained a AAA bond rating, which is the result of sound budgeting, accounting, and management practices. Number two, we provided to all the departments a training session on NovaTime, which is our timekeeping software, on how to process invoices for payment and claims audit. We also set up the credit card, debit card, cards as an acceptable form of payment in the recycling center. We started that in July of 2024, and we collected close to $150,000 by early January through this system, which is the 4-day credit card system. We also worked with departments to start the use of Park Mobile with David Lease. And we also, with that, we replaced the handheld machines, and that is going to result in less human error on processing fees. Plus, we are not going to have those expenses anymore. Number 4, we successfully established 24 overtime pay codes, and we assigned them to all the town employees' screens in both timekeeping and the financial software. This had to be done because we are going to move from we are going to have to change how we report to the retirement system. We're going to report on the enhanced reporting system. And with that, we have to, they needed to know what kind of overtime each person is getting, because Tier 5 and Tier 6 employees have overtime limits that they can earn as pensionable earnings. So we had to create all these overtime codes so that the retirement system records all the activities properly for people's, pensions. In 2024, we went from closing a total of 65 capital projects in 2023 to 80 projects in 2024. Thank you, Kathy, for helping with that. Appreciate that. And our 25 goals, we have the goal of earning the gold certification from the New York State retirement system by moving from the legacy to the enhanced reporting. And this is happening now. We've been setting this up for months now, and we are about to report the January report to the retirement system. And we are going to do that in the enhanced system. So we are right now working on this transition. Number two, we would like to increase opportunities to collect payments from the public via credit debit cards. In sanitation right now, we use the 40 system for collections when people go there in person. I would love to be able to increase the 40 system and by adding it to the invoicing system. So right now, our recycling center issues monthly invoices to customers, and they mail them paper. So I would love to be able to move that to an electronic form of issuing invoices, and then the customers can pay online. That needs a little bit of tweaking so that the system works with the sanitation software that they use. I would love to be able to assist the town clerk's office in establishing debit and credit card as forms of payment. Number three, this is a challenge and an opportunity. We use NovaTime as our time software timekeeping, and NovaTime was sold to UKG. With that, the challenge is that we are going to have to set up everything like a brand new software. All the setups that we have in NovaTime are not transferring automatically to UKG, and that's going to take time and money. The opportunity is that if we do the transfer to the new system strategically at a time that we pick, can then take advantage of changing from 20.
Sorry, Nate.
That's okay. So we can, we have a goal of changing from 26 payrolls to 24 payrolls a year. And that is going to require a complete change in all the tables in Munis, which is our financial software, and NovaTime. So if we strategically change from NovaTime to the new software at the right time, we can accomplish also the 24 payrolls a year. So that's what we would like to do. We'll see. We would also like to provide additional training to departments because besides our financial fiduciary, we have a responsibility towards the public, but we also provide services to other departments. We process claims audit, and a lot of times we have to reject things. And if we train the departments on how to process the invoices for payment, we are going to diminish the rejections and process bills on a more timely manner. The same thing in overtime, training the departments on how to process their employees' timesheets appropriately. So that's another goal that we want to accomplish. And lastly, we would like to create cash flow spreadsheets to assist officials and staff with a better understanding of the budget process from the revenue side. The revenue side is more difficult to predict when we're budgeting. Our 23 and 24 stats, we do about 55 bank reconciliations per month. It's a lot of bank reconciliations because we have a lot of funds. Journal entries, it's about 5,800 journal entries a year. Payrolls, it's about 74, 80 payrolls a year that we process. A payroll is it's like a warrant. We have 26 normal payrolls, but we also have voids, we have special payrolls. So that adds to 80 payrolls we processed in 2024. Tax dollars dispersed. So Christine is going to talk later about what she does as the tax receiver. So these amounts that you're seeing in 2023 and 2024, those are the amounts due to the town supervisor as per the tax warrant that is approved by Suffolk County. So in 2023, we received from the tax receiver and we dispersed $198.5 million. Out of that, 134.3 was passed on to the school districts and the libraries, including this library, and fire districts. 4.7 was for fire protection districts, and $59 million was for the town. In 2024, out of the $208 million, $142 million was for the schools, libraries, and fire departments. 4.9 million was for fire protection, and 60.9 was for the town. And claims audit, we in accounting, we review all the invoices that are for professional services such as engineers, architects, attorneys. And what we do in accounting, we basically review the invoices that were already reviewed by the department head and approved. And when we review one more time to ensure that they are in accordance to the agreements with these outside consultants and according to limits established by the town board. We are the eyes of the town board. And we make sure that everything is exactly the way the town board approved. And then if they pass the test, they go to the town clerk for payment. And we processed about 906 claims audit in 2024 and 748 in 2023. And that's the end of my presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
I do have one, which is more around the budgeting process than anything else. But I mean, budgeting process I think is great. I kind of come from corporate finance. We kind of additionally always operated to a longer range plan, a 5 or a 10-year plan within that world. You know, is there been discussions or exploration of doing that at a town level just to kind of have some insight into how we're looking 5 years from now financially?
We can look into that. I don't have an answer for you right now, but we can definitely discuss that with Becky and the town supervisor and get back to you on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't have a question. I have more of a comment on there.
Okay.
So I think, as you know, Kathy has mentioned, she's always been on try to keep modernizing town government. Then too, I didn't really know. So I go to the sanitation and recycling center a lot. You've heard me state that in the past. To be able to pay by credit card when you go over the scale instead of cash, it's much easier to keep your accounting on the personal or / business aspect of it.
Yes.
Because it used to have to be cash, paper, then you would have to go through all the receivables or whatever it may be. Right now, it makes it much easier if you're going to put on your credit card to be able to download that as you have to do your taxes. That was a plus for
Thank
our
you.
family
Yeah.
when we were doing that then too. And again, less hands-on cash makes it just
Correct.
easier, seamless process then too. So that was something that's very small, but I think had a large touch to a lot of businesses, a lot of individuals that was sort of unknown, but very, very, I think, highly looked after then too. So I thank you for working on that.
Welcome. Thank
Supervisor
you
and
for
others.
letting me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just, sorry, one.
No, go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Nish. Just, I think it would be very helpful to the public to know too, just the importance of that AAA bond rating, the impacts it has on interest rates, and how that has knock-on effects to the town's financial operation. You want to speak to that a little
Sure,
bit? Too?
yeah. So the AAA rating is the result of us doing sound, we adopt budgets that are realistic. We keep an eye on the budget. We don't hire, we don't incur an expense, or we do not contract for an expense unless we make sure we have money in the budget. And that is basically thanks to Jeannie Carosa and purchasing. So we have a very good purchasing policy that was established after we had the financial issues back in 2007, 8, and 9, and we got slapped on the wrist, and we created this purchasing policy. So we are not supposed to incur in contract with anybody unless we have a purchase order. And if you have a purchase order in your hands, that means the money is set aside to pay that bill. So the AAA rating is the result of all the sound practices, procedures that we have in place, and we stick to them. If there is an invoice being paid and there is no money in the budget, the staff from the town clerk is not going to pay that bill. They're going to reject it, and things are going to have to be explained. So it sounds very simple, but not important, but it is. And then when you get the financials, the financials issued, and we are showing that we are fiscally responsible, that we follow our procedures and policies, and then the result is AAA. And the consequence is that we get better interest rates on our debt service. So if we get lower interest rates, that means we can afford to do more projects for our community, and we are going to pay less for it. So I think it's a benefit to the taxpayers. That's why it is our goal to be responsible towards our taxpayers. In everything that we do, it's about protecting the taxpayers' money, and that's what I think is the consequence of the AAA.
Thank you.
I was just going to comment on how diligently you and your staff work on being the gatekeepers for the taxpayers' money. I know just how every penny counts in your office, and there's absolutely no in between.
No.
And it's a lot of departments, and it's a big town, and it's probably one of the most arduous jobs to account for every single penny of taxpayers' dollars. Yeah. But as a taxpayer, I want to also thank your department for the positioning that you take and the correctness of how you do everything, which you just, as you just said, really reflects back and saves taxpayers money, as well as making sure every penny goes to the right place.
Correct, to the right account, the right fund. We don't buy office supplies unless we absolutely have to. We're very diligent.
Not always popular.
I know. Yes.
I would just reiterate what Kate and others have said, and thank you for the work you do. It's very important, and you're very good at it and careful, and I think all the board members appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate all your support.
Could you talk a little about GFOA?
Yes, GFOA. So we have National GFOA, and it's an organization that covers United States and Canada, and they provide support to municipalities. They have training for municipalities and local governments. They also represent the municipalities in legislation, try to as a united front for changes in GASBs and things like that. That is the National Association. They also review the financials and they give those awards. So they're very strict, and if you win the award, that means your financials made sense, something, a number on page 55 ties to something hidden in page 2 or 3, things like that. The New York State GFOA covers all the municipalities within the state. I'm a board member of the GFOA, the New York State GFOA, and they provide training for local municipalities. They also represent local municipalities with GASB, for changes in GASB, if those changes are not very popular, if people are saying, well, these are not very realistic expectations, people are not going to be able to comply, like the pulling and tugging on these changes for GASB, and local laws. If there is a new pronouncement on ARPA money, they email all the members, so we get the latest changes, the latest information that we need to know to do our jobs on a day-to-day basis. And also networking. If you are having an issue and you're not sure how to proceed, you can contact them and they submit questions, and all the members anybody can answer how they dealt with the same issue in their municipality. So it's invaluable for us to do our jobs and to be up to date on the latest information and requirements.
What does the acronym stand for, GFOA?
Governmental Financial Officers Association.
Thank you, Niji.
Thank you very much.
Jeannie, you're no stranger to the podium. Welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for having me. Basically, what Neji said. No. Okay, our mission statement in purchasing is it implements the town purchasing policy in the acquisition of goods and services. The purchasing department ensures that the procurement process is fair and equitable. We try to be as transparent as possible as well. And the department dedicates itself to the procurement of the right goods and services at the right price for the various town departments in a timely manner, assuring the prudent and economical use of public monies while upholding all laws and regulations of New York State, general municipal law, and the town of East Hampton in the process. That's a mouthful. We try our hardest to do things in a timely manner. I know sometimes it doesn't always happen, but again, we try our best. And the town of East Hampton is a member also of the New York State Green Purchasing Communities Program and a leader in purchasing and using sustainable products. And that's something which you'll find out later is one of the goals which I will try to go further with. Our accomplishments in 2024 were quite a few. With the purchasing department procuring the goods and services that the town needs to operate effectively, solicited 51 bids of all sorts, 11 RFPs, and processed close to 3,000 purchase orders. I don't want to be known as a paper-pushing department, with all the paperwork we do. There are other things as well that we do. The department also received, as mentioned before, the Green Purchasing Certification from New York State, furthering the town's sustainability goals. And one event that I was very nervous in doing was bringing the community shredding event for the public. And I went there earlier just to make sure everything was all set up. And the people that came, they were just like, this is great, and what it does is basically we can use that shredded paper into other products, paper towels, to name a few. It lessens the load at our sanitation department, and I just thought it was a great event that we had, and I'd like to do that again. Approximately 2 tons of paper was shredded on that day, and it ran from 10 to 2, and that was only in those few hours that we had that many. Training for the purchasing staff was accomplished by webinars and conferences, and the purchasing department employees were successful in acquiring scholarships to support their education, and those were from SAMPO, which is the State Association of Municipal Purchasing Officials, like GFOA. They do support all the municipalities all over the state, and they do bring things to legislation as well. One of the things that we've been trying to push for a while is we have certain thresholds that for different commodities and services. Commodities right now is only $20,000 per commodity, and that's an aggregate for the town. That goes for like office supplies. So yes, a pencil can only cost maybe 10 cents, but as a whole, office supplies, we spend well over $20,000 as a whole for the town. We're trying to move that to 50,000, so that will make it easier for everybody. And services, which include, public works, sidewalk contracting, asphalt, and all that. Right now, that's set at 35,000. So we're trying to move that up to, I think it was like maybe 65 to 70. So again, that would make it easier for everybody. But it's been a long process. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and we've been trying to move that threshold up little by little all the time. And also, let's see here. So up-to-date training ensures the employees are aware of all the relevant laws and regulations so we can comply with everything. Training for the departments also was accomplished. I did that with Naji in the finance department. We went over processing purchase orders, and just, showing how the process works so everybody is on the same page and it makes the process seamless. And also, saving money is an accomplishment every year with new contracts and bids. And going back to training, I just, something that I did renew my certifications through purchasing, that being the CPPB, which is a Certified Professional Public Buyer, and a CPP, which is a Certified Procurement Professional. And this entails testing, and then we just have to uphold all of the education credits for those certifications. So those are good for 3 and 5 years, and hopefully I won't have to do it again because I'll be since retired.
Don't say that.
Okay, my 2025 goals. The continued training for purchasing staff in town departments. Again, that leads to more skilled, efficient, effective work groups. Training to include the Department of Labor class, updating us on prevailing wages. Actually, Matt Myers from the Department of Labor will be here in March for a class, and the board members are welcome if they want to come. And because there are several changes coming up for that. Also, I was talking about the collaborative class with finance and payroll. And also another thing I'd like to do is we have several town contracts for porta potties, T-shirts, to name a few. And we have a spreadsheet, and I'd like to send the spreadsheet to all the departments with the links for each contract so they can access that. So I'll be working on that with IT and also Naji to help me with the spreadsheets. And setting up BidNet for vendors with available bids to be downloaded from a site, and that will broaden our vendor base. And what BidNet is we would essentially just send our bid specs to this company, BidNet, and they would, the vendors could access that site, and they could just download the bids from them. And if there's an addendum, we would just send that one addendum to the site, and they would just send it off to everybody who has requested that bid. We would also, in the beginning, we'd keep track of everything in our department in case people wanted to access it from our department. We could send it out to them, but at least, like I said, we would broaden our vendor base, and it would be more efficient, I think, and it would lighten the load for, some time-consuming processes within the office.
Now, would they respond via the BidNet too, or
Right.
they'd still have to,
They'd have to
overnight
respond.
or drop off?
Exactly. And that is another thing that we're working on. I know the state would like, we'd like to have bids received electronically. For instance, I was thinking the other day, we had to have an addendum go out, and we had our snow day, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we have to get this addendum out. And then, we did come in, but I was like, if we had BidNet, I could just send it off to them, and they could send the addendum out to everybody. But anyway, that's one thing in the works. Online auction for items deemed disposable. I know we do have several cars in the back, and actually, we do have that scheduled, hoping for February 19th, and I was going to actually put a resolution on for that on the 18th. And with that notice, I will have the list of everything, and we will try to get that list of all the items to you prior to that as well. And that is on an online auction, and it's great because they have, again, it's open to everybody, and they can just bid online. And also, I'd like to work again with an audit firm to reduce utility expenses. We did that a few years back, especially with our cable and our telephone, and we received quite a bit of money back from that. And again, number one goal is always to save taxpayers' money. And that's it for now. Any questions?
Two questions. And firstly, I thank you. I mean, 3,000 a year is 10 a day, and I know the amount of work that goes into each one. It's a big workload, so thank you for that. Just wanted to talk a bit about bid specs, because I often work with my liaison departments. There's kind of the understanding of why does something have to be a year-long contract versus, say, a 3 or a 5, and so on. Where do those laws originate from, and how can one navigate them where there's kind of issues that a vendor might only have a 5-year contract, say?
Well, usually, there's just so much changes in there. It's just a standard. Usually, you don't want to go more than 3 years. It's just coming down because there's so many changes that happen. But I know, like, some of the bids we try to extend for 3 years, but it's usually on a 1-year basis. For instance, we tried to do that with food, to have it longer. But right now, with all the changing prices in food, we can only do it annually. It's just that, it's just the change in the economy. And if sometimes, you don't want to put it in there, it's a 3-year bid with no exceptions in between, because then you're stuck with that person for that vendor for 3 years if there's a problem. But there's no written standard that says it has to be a certain amount of time. It's just, you just go by, I'm just trying to think.
Past experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say go by that.
And listen, the other thing I was going to say, the audit to reduce utility expenses, I am 100% behind. I mean, I know when I do warrants, when you go through our utilities, there's room for the town to save thousands of dollars there, just in late fees. So it's something I'd love to see us do.
All right.
So Jeannie's been in my office a lot, and you learn a lot. And I think one of the biggest things is about the prevailing wage, how that affects projects then too.
Yeah.
It's one of the most difficult thing coming from, let's say, the private sector into the public sector. You want to get stuff done, it has to be done a different way through procurement on there then too. And those laws have changed in the state. Matt Myers has been great, and they're continuing to change. That could be troublesome, but the way that you're approaching it is by bringing the state to the town, to educate the town as you change. It's well done. I look forward to sitting in on that, because we contact them a lot through your contacts. I can't wait to have you here for another 20 years. But
one of the I just wanted to bring up, one of the changes with prevailing wage is that all vendors from December 2024 going forward have to be registered with the Department of Labor, and we actually have to have a certificate from them stating that they are registered, and that's included with our bid specs, starting January 1st, and they have to sign off and then present us with that registration form
Correct, and
So
so
that would be
hopefully
good.
that's getting out to those vendors, because you don't want that to be a
No.
holdup of a traditional vendor that we might have that gives us good responses. And as, the bid net, some of the larger projects, we know we're starting to see coming in tighter bids on there, instead of being widely off by a million, and tighter by, maybe 20, 30,000 on a $4 million job. That's pretty good. But now with some larger projects coming up to cast that net literally a little further out, I think it would be great to try to get, it would be very effective to get larger construction companies coming in that can actually give the town better prices. And again, hence, as you both just said, save the taxpayer money. I thank you, Jeannie, for all your time and effort, and particularly educating me.
You're welcome.
In the previous years.
I know sometimes it's not popular, but
No, but it's the right thing, and that's what I think we're here for. You're protecting the town.
You're
protecting
the
town.
guardrails.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we say the town, we mean the taxpayers of the town all the time. But I also want to thank you for initiating the green sustainability purchasing. That came directly from you. And I think, again, it's a way to not only save the taxpayers' money, but also reduce what we're putting out into the waste stream as well.
also I'm working with, with the charging stations lately, finding the vendors for it, helping them do that. So we're in the process of doing that now, which is great.
Yeah, it's really moving our sustainability goals forward. And as I said, that was your initiative, and I want to thank you for instituting it.
Okay.
We'll just reiterate what everybody else has said. Thank you for the important work you do so well.
Thank you.
Jeannie, can you talk a little bit about the work that you've done with Sampo?
Oh, Christine introduced me to that originally. And I remember the first time going to a conference, it was 2001. Went to Saratoga, and we went there. And I remember coming out of the classes, and I'm like, Christine. I said, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. I said, but how do we do it? But anyway, so it's a great organization. We have, it's just what I go to all the time. If I have questions about anything, I go to the conferences. We learn everything, all the new laws, regulations, and like I said, I've been doing this for over 20 years, and when I go there, sometimes I walk out, I'm like, oh my God, there's still so many things to know. I've been the president. I was on president for 2 years there. It was a 2-year term. And of course, it happened during COVID too. So, we had the conferences booked, and I had to do a turnaround, and then all of the conferences had to be virtual. So we had to make all those changes. But it's great, and I'm still on the executive board. It's just a great network to have for support, to turn to everybody, there who knows what you're going through. And if I need an RFP or something, I can reach out, say, do you have a sample of this one? Or, and I can get several samples and put all the pieces together. It's just a great network to have. And it's a great organization. And that's why I have my staff registered in it. And we go to the conferences. And like I said, I'll continue working with them, probably until I retire.
Well, thank you for your leadership on that. And
You're welcome.
just what came out is that we're president of Sampo, and Nagy is on the board of the GFOA, and that, that town all the way out on the east end of Long Island.
Exactly.
We're
usually-
represented.
When I was president, we have monthly meetings, with the board. And there's like, when I was president, it's like usually you go to the location of the president, and everybody's from wherever and upstate. And they're like, I said, by the time you get out here, we time to go home, but they always wanted to, but never got there. But anyway, that would have been nice. But
Thank you, Jeannie.
okay, you're welcome.
All right, Christine, please join us and introduce us to the mission and the work of the tax receiver.
Tax receiver. Well, we're responsible for generating and distributing the property tax bills and collecting the property taxes for Suffolk County, the town, 6 school districts, 5 libraries, 9 fire districts, 5 lighting districts, and all the various special improvement districts. So like Camp Hero Water and Pheasantwood Lane. So when neighbors get together and decide that they want to get some work done and it's going to be part of their taxes, those become a special taxing district that we add on. And for some reason, in everyone's mission statement, it says that the tax collection office is not a policymaking office. So I kept that on there. For 2024, our accomplishments were we increased the public's knowledge and their use of our online information and payment portal. Our phone rings off the hook, literally. People call and call, they just keep calling until they get through. So we spend a lot of time on the phone letting people know and easing them into using our online system, telling them that it's safe, and increases the reliability and the ease of payment. And it provides a more secure user experience. Let's face it, we've all put a check in the mail to someone and it hasn't shown up. So we've definitely are increasing and encouraging people to use.
So are you seeing more folks that, you know, they're reluctant now because there's also afraid of identity theft by putting checks in the mail? Are
Yeah,
more
it's
people-
checks in the mail. Then there's other people who are afraid to go online. Last year, which is one of the things I'll talk about, I guess I'll just go right to it. We were literally on the phone from one phone call to the next, people wanting to phone their information right into our office, which was something that started during COVID as a way to help people pay their taxes with no contact. But then we came to find out that we were overwhelmed with the calls, number one. Number two, getting the information from people was taking a long time, like sometimes 5-10 minutes to get through all the information that we needed. And then a staff member literally had to sit there and go online and then enter that information. Sometimes the information was wrong, which meant we had to call them back. So we were spending way too much time. And then we also found out that it's against banking regulations to do that. I mean, we were taking like every single piece of information from a person. So we did discontinue that. And then we found out about an IVR telephone service through Forte. Forte processes our online credit card payments already. So we've been working with them and Govern our financial software. No one else that uses Govern has used an IVR system yet. So Govern is creating on the financial side, that part of the software, and then Forte is sending over files. So right now we're back and forth testing the system, making sure that it works 100% before we introduce it to the public. It solves the request of people wanting to phone their information in. It's an easier process. And then for us, it's just files that go back and forth during the day. So we're hoping that that's going to provide increased transactional security and make people feel more confident in those payments. At the end of last year, thanks to the board, we did a small project and we updated our public office area. We provided a handicap accessible taxpayer area. Our counter had been there since the building was built in 1988. So we originally just wanted to fix a few things. And then the contractor came out, Austin Interiors, they're on contract. It was great. They came out and they said, this structure isn't attached to anything. And the door was really flimsy, like if you pushed it. So we had all those things fixed and it looks very lovely on that side of the office. Now the other side looks kind of crappy, but we'll talk about it. As things change with technology, we are updating our cash collection process. We try to be state of the art. Last year, we did have an issue where we received some cash that we took to the bank. The bank noted it as counterfeit. So that started an 8-month-long odyssey. The last person with the counterfeit money's on the hook for it. So luckily it wasn't counterfeit, so we did get the money back, and it came in time before I closed the books for the year, so that was all good. But we did decide to update our currency counterfeit bill machine, and we have the same exact one that they have at Dime Bank. So we're hoping that that'll cut down. We do collect cash, so we want to be safe. Our last accomplishment is my staff. I couldn't do it without them. They provide excellent customer service. Let's face it, nobody wants to come and pay. So people, though, are very generous in their praise for the staff. People often ask to speak to me to say, oh, you know, so-and-so did a great job. They really helped me out. So I'm happy about that. That's good. Our goals for 2025 are to complete the testing and implementation of the IVR telephone service, continue to increase the public's knowledge and use of our online payment and information portal. I mean, you can go online and print out copies of all your bills. You can see all your payments. A lot of people don't know that. You can look at all your neighbors too. I tell them that and they get all excited. So that's been very helpful, rather than someone calling saying, oh, can I have copies? And then either they have to come in, or then we have to print them out and then scan them and email them. So it's been a real time saver once people know the service is there. We are going to need to transition our financial software. Govern is moving to open forms, so that's going to require the assessor's office and our office to move over in tandem. We're constantly updating our collection procedures and processes to align with whatever new software or new bank regulation or new safety feature comes into play. And we want to provide the most up-to-date and secure options for our taxpayers, payments and transactions. Like I said, this year we did have quite a few people who said they put the check in the mail, but the check didn't show up. So we've been dealing with those people and trying to help them and get that straightened out. And that's probably the number one issue that we've had this year, obviously, is the mail. And that's it. Are there any questions?
Yeah, just one or two. First one, just do a rough estimate in terms of tax payments that we receive. How many, roughly percentage-wise, come by mail, online, et cetera, et cetera?
It changes. We're definitely doing more online. We also have the lockbox service provided by Dime Bank. So that's the envelope that's in the tax bills initially, because our staff wasn't big enough to process 25,000 transactions between December and January 10th. I can get you those numbers if you'd like.
Yeah, just around, I mean, is online like 50%, roughly speaking, or no, not really there yet?
I don't think so, but I could,
we can follow
I
up
could be
offline,
wrong.
Yeah, okay.
I could be wrong.
And then just the other piece was just, you know, have we ever looked in, you know, the phone questions you're getting that are taking 10, 15 minutes, public education classes, you know, and especially on navigating the online system. Have we ever considered doing any of those just at Town Hall or at Montuak, just for people to kind of really understand how to work this and avoid that time for you guys in the season?
That's something that we've thought about, but haven't had a minute to take care of it. I was actually speaking with Diane Patrizio the other day, the head of Human Services, because it's frequently seniors who need the help. Right. So we were talking about different things that maybe we could do, dovetail on existing programs. Like they have the bus that can go get people prescriptions and other things. Could they pick the tax checkup from them? Just like brainstorming simple things that we already have as a way to start. And then, yeah, if I can go sit at the senior center one day in Montuak or in East Hampton and help people that way. We need to talk to Heath, and there's, you know, things.
Okay, I'd be happy to help you with those. I think that's a great idea. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So to me, it's about your staff and the staff that's been there for a long time. This perhaps is the largest check that individuals will write all year long. And it's very nerve-wracking for some. You could be young, you could be seniors or whatever it may be. They want to make sure they get it in because the implications of not doing that are important. So to have the patience to be able to do so for so many different varieties of individuals, from people have mortgages and pay through the mortgage or by check, cash, other means, is very important for the forward-facing entity that you provide. What I don't think individuals might understand is that all the taxes get collected, then distributed through your office.
Right.
for school districts, which is largest percentage of my tax bill in Springs.
It's $280 million, I think, the warrant.
Special collection districts
That's a lot of
on there, lighting districts, libraries, historical society. I don't know. If you do the historical
We
society.
do have some museums in Sag
Yeah,
Harbor through the
exactly.
school district.
So all of that and making sure that all gets correct because there's so many entities that rely on that then too. And any way to be able to continue that modernization, I support also with you, Christine. I thank you for your efforts.
Thanks.
It is, when you see the list, it's amazing to think of all of the taxes that you're collecting for the different, just 5 libraries alone, and making sure everything gets distributed correctly. Thank goodness I'm not
God
in
for
charge of it,
Neji.
because
Neji keeps me in line.
Spreadsheet. I mean,
Oh, you got to
it's-
see my spreadsheet. Oh, my God. You see the gray?
I've also used the online system for quite a long time now, and it is very straightforward. So I encourage people to just click on it and follow the directions. It's amazingly straightforward, and you can print out your receipt.
Yeah.
So not only do you have your deduction right away on your bank account that proves that you've paid, you also can get your receipt immediately.
Correct.
So I encourage folks to check it out. And I know I use the check system, so I think it's
It's
very
$1.75.
It's $1.75 to be able. I mean,
And
what's
to
the
know that
stamp?
it's there.
Yeah, and
Because we're to the point now with the mail, advising people to send it certified or return receipt,
Yeah.
because we received a lot of mail this year that had no postmark on it at all. So that backed us into a corner of having to charge them the fee, even though they said they mailed it on January 6th or whatever, or even January 10th. We didn't get it till the 17th or the 20th, and there was no postmark on it. And that kills me.
Yeah, I understand that. So I just click on the page, follow, it's very prominent on the town website, pay your taxes. That's a hard button to miss. And just follow the instructions, and it's quite a simple process and super efficient. So thank you for all you do, Christine.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you, Christine, and to your whole staff for the work you do. And I realize that people aren't usually excited about paying their taxes, so appreciate a positive, public-facing department.
We try.
And I think what we could do, maybe you could work with Patrick when we're, in like late April, May, when the bills are going out for the second half, and maybe.
Fancy on the front page.
There.
Yeah, but we could also do social media and let folks, really push the online payment options so folks, and know that they can get their tax bill there. So I think that would be something that we should think about moving forward.
Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this has been a series we've started because as I had mentioned I guess it was a little liaison report when we had, back in December, we had asked town department heads to share with us their 2024 accomplishments and 2025 goals to help inform the state of the town. We were just overwhelmed with how much, good work each and every department is doing. So we're going to be bringing these types of presentations to work sessions moving forward over the next month or two. And you ladies kicked it off for us, so we're grateful. Thank you. Okay, so next up, we have our Assistant Town Attorney, Charlie Collins, who's got a proposed urban renewal modification. Welcome, Charlie.
Hello. I'll just wait for get put up on the board.
Patrick's going to get that up for you.
You can go to the next page. You can't really read that anyway. So this was an application to amend the urban renewal map. This is in Springs, 840 Springs Fireplace, which is right kind of by where Fort Pond and Springs Fireplace meet, right by like Springs Liquor and those areas. So the proposal originally, the map was drawn to require a 50-foot scenic easement on the property abutting Springs Fireplace Road as a buffer easement. The applicant submitted a request to approve, modify the map to change that 50-foot scenic easement to 25 along the road and then 25 in the rear of the property. Can you go to the next? Yeah, so that's the lot there. That's lot 32, urban renewal parcel 32, I should say. So the 50-foot easement would go along Springs Fireplace. The proposed is, can you go to the next? The proposed would be 25 along Springs Fireplace and then 25 in the rear. And that's because the property abuts wetlands. And by splitting the easement, the engineers noted that you would be able to move the development of the property closer to the road, away from the wetlands. They proposed also to allow the sanitary system to go inside of that in the ground, obviously, in that easement area, so that could get even farther away from the wetlands. That's what they're proposing. And also to move the access for the property to the southwest corner of the lot, closer to lot 31, because there's a common driveway between the two lots there. So it would be one entrance onto Springs Fireplace. And that's it.
Folks have questions? You want to just talk about the planning department's review of it, and it went to the planning board?
Yeah, so it went to the engineer, issued his, wrote up his memo, the planning department reviewed it, the planning department sent a memo to the planning board also reviewed, and no one had any problems with it. I think the idea is just to allow for development further away from the wetlands there.
I'm supportive. So this is just outside the Springs Historical District?
I believe it might be in the historic district. I'm not certain.
So if it's in the Springs Historical District, it would have to have greater review as far as ARB.
ARB would need to review anything.
Because there's another level of review on there for this property. I thought these properties were actually
I believe
merged.
It is.
But that's my fault. So it's an individual building lot.
It's a separate lot. Urban renewal lots won't merge unless you have to modify. They don't merge. It's not like a regular property where substandard lots will merge if they're under common ownership. In urban renewal, they won't do that.
Okay. That's my fault. I thank you for explaining that on there then too. It's a little tricky to see where they're going to be putting a septic system underneath in a scenic easement, because that is typically not done that way. But as far as the appropriate location, allow for a building envelope with the greatest setbacks to the wetlands, which is in the rear, which should be off of Acabon. I can understand that, and particularly with anything going forward on, I would just want to make sure, because of the shallow water table there, that it might have to be a raised septic system, or that it would be able to be revegetated over time.
You'd still have to go through all the required Suffolk County permits and all that. This is just to give, I think, more of an opportunity to. I believe these properties are owned by the same person. I'm not sure, but so it would be part of it's not a big lot, so I don't think it would be a very large structure.
Understood.
Question?
No, I think it makes sense to move the development further away from the wetlands, and since that will achieve this in this circumstance, I'm supportive.
I'm supportive as well.
Okay. So I'll schedule a public hearing.
Right.
I don't know. I know the next public hearing date that would be available, I believe, would be March 6th.
Yeah, I don't think we could get it on for that.
Okay, so it would be the
March
next.
20th.
Okay, I'll get that scheduled.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Charlie. Okay, and then lastly, we have the Montuak Business District parking recommendations. Patrick's going to queue up that PowerPoint.
If you don't mind, Madam Supervisor, I'll start from here, but I might, because if there's any questions, I might go up to the television, or we're going to say, if we any questions, I can better simulate what we're looking to do. I want to thank you very much for this, Madam Supervisor, for being able to put this on. This came out of discussions within the town board. Tom Flight also, we discussed some change of options in some of the parking areas, and also discussions with East Hampton Town Police Department. We discussed this at the Montuak CAC most recently, but just to get in front of this as we approach to the summer season, we wanted to go through some parking recommendations for some of the municipal parking lots that would help clear up some ambiguity, well said, David, in the code. And we'll roll through these, and I'll tell you some of the reasons why. There are actually 4 parking lots we're looking at, and then some right-of-ways. The first parking lot that we have on here would be the parking lot on South Euclid and South Embassy. This parking lot is actually adjacent to the Montauk Police Substation, the public bathroom. Currently, right now, there's actually 3 sections of the code, both in the permit parking and the time limit parking, that actually governs this parking lot, which actually, if we're looking to enforce or adjudicate it, becomes very difficult to do so. What we are looking to do in these locations is not limit or not decrease any of the amount of parking spaces, or specifically the amount of ADA parking spaces, but allow for a better use of the parking lot as it abuts against the central business district and some of the businesses that are there. Looking at the lot right now, currently it is 2-hour parking for the entire parking lot, unless you have a town parking permit, which you can park all. If you go down there right now, or some of the other parking lots, you can see that actually there's still snow on many of the there's the cars parked there, some with tires that are flatter than normal, which means that they've been parked there at least close to 72 hours, if not longer right now, and just as an indicator. The all on there becomes an issue because, as is written in the code right now or reviewed, if you had a town parking permit, you could park there as long as you would like without any type of enforcement techniques on it then too. The recommendation coming out of this is to add in the green area would be 30-minute parking. That is actually 5 parking spots down there. There's also a handicap parking spot in the corner there too. And then the other parking spots would be for 2-hour parking. And if you had an East Hampton Town parking permit, valid parking permit, it'd be 72 hours in that location. This location also butts up against the bus depot, not depot, the bus stop, jitney stop, if you want to say, in that location. So historically, this area has been used for some commuter traffic also, but also is centralized into that parking area. As you see in the next slide there, this is just how the current code is written right now. So any changes on here, we would remove all this and then rewrite it to the specific language that we want, and we would have to do that within authorizing resolution or in the notice of public hearing. I'm going to move through these if you don't mind, then we can come back. Is that okay, everyone?
Yeah.
The next recommendation is in one of the main parking lots. It's actually probably the second largest parking lot in a business district in the town of East Hampton, the first being Amagansett. This is the town parking lot in South Euclid and South Edison. Again, in this location, it's the same language that we currently have right now, which is 2-hour parking, no taxis or TLC livery plates. But if you had a parking permit, town parking permit, it's all again. Recommendations in this location right now would be to add in a 30-minute parking area in the green there. That again is the area that's closer to some of the alleyways that would get you through to Main Street and other areas. And then also continue to have in the left side, which would be all ADA spots. I believe there's 9 ADA spots in this location. The rest of the spots then would be 2-hour parking or 72-hour with a town parking permit. And looking at this with the police, we also looked at the south side of South Euclid Avenue, where there's no parking restrictions. In that location, it is recommended to put a 2-hour parking restriction in that area then too. All of this, again, is to allow for businesses to be able to have turnover, very similar to the timeframes that we had in the Amagansett parking lot, but also to not allow for any abuse of our parking locations. Currently, there are a couple parking spots, cars down there that have snow still on and haven't moved. Next one, if you don't mind. And going forward is another lot. This is actually the newest lot that the town of East Hampton, it's the newest lot in Montuak that the town of East Hampton constructed. Again, this is on the corner of South Euclid and Edison Avenue. Currently, there is no restrictions on parking, and there's in this whole entire lot in this area. So again, we would like to maintain that by actually making to the same recommendations of any parking restrictions, which would be 2-hour parking or 72-hour parking with a valid East Hampton Town parking permit. Again, in the areas of South Euclid, which is in the purple there, that would be going to 2-hour parking. Again, the number of parking spots and ADA spots would not change in this location too. Going to the next one. This is an area that was discussed. This is south of the highway. Again, this is on the parking lot of South Embassy and South Elmwood Avenue, behind Plaza Sports, if you want to state that. This location here, the recommendations would be going to, again, 2-hour parking and 72-hour parking with the East Hampton valid town parking permit. I think there's 3 8A spots in there. The total spots I'm not exactly sure of, but if you go to the next page, there are three sections of the code on there that changed over the years, but were never removed. So we removed these and we designated the parking lot more specifically by the tax map that was on there. Again, it has the same language that's in there as 2 hours parking, but if you had a parking permit, it states all also. So that would be the recommendation for that location then too. And then lastly, we have a long look at something that another business owner came to us and we spoke with the PD. This would be in the right-of-way area of South Erie. Again, South Erie is an unopened road, mostly used for parking right now, that would go behind the municipal, the ball fields over there, and then also down to the launching ramp, which is on the DEC. Currently there is no restrictions in there, and the recommendation would be to add it to the section for no overnight camping and parking prohibited. Again, no change in the total number of parking spots and 8A parking spots. Strikingly, actually, in South Erie, down by the soccer field and by the DEC boat ramp, there actually is no parking signs there, but there's nothing in the code. So this will allow for the proper enforcement if needed in those areas then too. That's sort of what we're looking at. The timeframes were to mimic what we already have in the code as far as the Amagansett parking lot, which is when we redid that back in 2021, maybe, during COVID, actually. We had 30-minute parking closer to the area that abuts the commercial business district, is also 2-hour parking. And then you have 72-hour parking in a back area, which has actually been well used, as was another jitney stop there. So there's a lot of similarities to this.
Sorry, where's there another jitney stop?
In Amagansett.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you would walk through the areas. So some of the long-term parking was described there. This is what's come forward on there, and looking for some direction from the town board about these recommendations. Part of the discussions has come down, also said if individuals want to stay there for longer, where could they park? But they also understand the need for cleaning up the code and also allowing for turnover in the parking lots, in our municipal parking lots. And that's what I have, open for discussion.
Thank you for doing this, because I know this kind of came up with the relocation of the pharmacy. So I think, the addition of like 30-minute spots behind that new proposed location is excellent. Likewise, I do share the concern there of like, look, the people who are going away for a week, but they're taking public transport in by the jitney, et cetera. There's no option for them to leave their car anywhere in town right now, which I think, perhaps we want to look at one area perhaps which has less long-term use, perhaps on South Erie, to allow for longer-term parking in that area, because I don't think there's a lot of competition for parking there, but gives people the option, because that's not a huge walk to get to the jitney stop, say, if you are using that. The other thing I would just think with this, with regards to kind of the large lot in the hamlet, is just ensure that we've kind of reached out to the businesses and make sure they're on board with this. I do know in the past, when we've looked at changes with one-way flows during COVID, et cetera, there was kind of a big pushback from local businesses. So, let's just make sure that they understand and get this. I do think in the longer term, this will benefit them personally, because there'll be more transition of cars and people that should help business, but there may be implications for them that they're not supportive of this. So I'd want to have that dialogue. Other than that, I think this is good. I think it's good to have some regulation, and it gives PD and the ability to actually manage cars that have been deserted there as well, to say, hey, you've outstayed. So thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure, Tom. So this has been sent to the Montauk Chamber of Commerce, to the new Executive Director, Jessica Dye, for review. We'll hear back from obviously. All this has to go to a public hearing on there. I have a meeting with her actually on Thursday. As far as South Erie, there was a resident that stated, what if you wanted to go to longer parking on there with a parking permit? I'm open to that. It's mostly just, as we heard from another resident that was up here, it's an area that's unrestricted, and what the right restriction is over there, I think we'll maybe leave it up to the board. I'm more trying to target right now. If I had a priority on it, my priority is to look at the parking lots right now. So, and for summer, but I understand what you're mentioning then too. There are some locations that individuals can park in without any restrictions. They would just have to go search for them a little bit more.
Right.
But thank you, Tom.
Yeah, David, I'm generally supportive of all of the recommendations. I mean, the South Erie recommendation is no overnight parking and camping. I can't see how that would impede anybody. In fact, that would clear up the spaces for the field uses if people are staying there. Also, where you have purple on South Euclid, I mean, that's where the post office is, and it'd be nice to keep those spots open and flowing for people that are collecting their mail. So I'm generally supportive of the recommendations.
Thank you, Kate. And if I just go back to South Euclid, we didn't do all South Euclid spots because some of them were put in there as part of site plan. You know, that, you know, they had to have a certain amount of parking. Site plans would allow for, there was relief in front of those spots.
I remember a couple of those.
Yeah, so this is more targeted
They were more
thoughtfully.
towards the east, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So it is more targeted in areas where they abutted the parking lots, and we'll see how we do. And we could always do more or less, but we try to make it reasonable and not to affect individuals' businesses and how they operate it directly in front of their door.
Yeah, and I think the 2 hour, it seems to be accepted in all business areas of the towns and villages, so that you can, again, have spaces available for people that are shopping in those areas rather than having cars stay there with no restrictions. So I think it helps. Ultimately, I think it helps the businesses in the area.
Yeah, I'm supportive as well. Generally, I will say that, you know, I'm not in favor of restricting parking just for its own sake, and I think others have stated this. The goal here is so that people can access spaces to, you know, to access the business area. So that's why we're doing it, and that's the only reason that I'm supportive, not because I just want to make it more difficult to park. I think the idea is to make it easier for people to park and have turnover. So I'm supportive of the 30-minute spaces. I think those make sense. All the 2 hour spaces you mentioned. I'm a little concerned about Erie. I don't know how much of a problem area that is, and I'm a little concerned about not allowing overnight parking in case somebody needs to leave their car because they've been out, you know, celebrating something, and I don't want to create a situation where nobody can leave their car anywhere. That said, I appreciate that we don't want people to store their cars in public parking lots either, and so there's a balance in there somewhere. So I would like to look a little bit more closely at the Erie Ave, no overnight parking. And then to Tom's point, and Dave already has addressed it, but the businesses will definitely want to hear back from them. I don't see anything here that would be problematic. And Dave, I'm assuming also that knowing you, I'm sure that you have, but talked to the police department about this and traffic?
These are recommendations that have been reviewed and responded as reasonable and supportive.
Great. Thank you very much.
So I'm supportive of the 30-minute. I know it worked well in Amagansett. It makes a lot of sense. I think there's a big swing. I mean, obviously, it's the 2 hour parking makes sense for folks that are visitors here, and so that they can get a bite to eat, shop, whatnot. If they're going to the beach, it's a quick trip to the beach because they've got to be back in 2 hours. Having so many 72-hour, 3-day parking in downtown Montauk seems like a lot of spots that folks can park there overnight. It may make more sense, like we did in Amagansett, where we had areas where you could park overnight if you wanted to take the jitney. So maybe the South Erie makes more sense. I think that's what Tom brought up, to have a more designated area for long-term parking, because do you really need in that parking lot, we can't call it a new parking lot, but the parking lot we created a number of years ago, do we really need 3-day parking there? You know what I mean? What's the function of having 3-day parking at Edison and Euclid? Where we're in the downtown area, I would think we would want for the business community to have the ability for turnover. And I think if you have less of it, it's easier to manage, right? As far as folks that they're not leaving their car for a week or a month, because it's there when they get back off the jitney again.
So I understand where you're coming from. So to go to the 72-hour, currently right now, there's no backstop to it if you have a parking permit. And that's troublesome if you're trying to enforce individuals that are maybe taking advantage of what the
Right.
allowance is. 72 hours were thought to be,
Right now, you could park there all year.
if you had a parking permit.
Yeah.
That's sort of how it's being read right now. Even if, yes, exactly.
I think the danger is, and Ian's going to call that out, it's like, is there a problem? I mean, people might be doing that, but is it problematic? And are we legislating for something that's not problematic in that case? And, you know, look, I to the point of like introducing regulations where there's a problem, I get it. But if there's not a problem, let's not create one for people.
Yeah, so I don't think there is, I don't think there's an overly problem there. The problem is that there's no technique to enforce when there is a problem. So if there's not it's not a multiples of a problem. It's sporadic in situations that you need a trigger to be able to enforce.
I also question if the intention, you know, when we create the parking lots is to allow people to park there for months. You know, these parking lots service the businesses. And so, you know, whether we're being proactive or waiting for something to happen, you know, to me, what's important is the attention of when the parking lots were created with taxpayers, you know, with town money. So, and again, I think in Montauk, particularly in the summer, there is a parking problem for sure. I mean, it's hard to find spots. So people are, you know,
I would challenge that
taking
assumption,
advantage.
Kate.
Well, I'm just talking about my experience,
Okay.
Tom. You have your own.
Yeah.
I would just caution that we don't wait until, you know, nobody can have any parking spots whatsoever, but we do institute something that just makes sense so that the businesses can continue to enjoy, you know, turnover in their businesses, and people can park to go the places that they want to go.
So another thing I think we didn't really touch on here yet was that there's a lot of the businesses, some of the newer, well, you've heard this in the past, the greatest amount of commercial development in the town of East Hampton has actually been on Euclid Ave in those locations, as far as the amount of buildings, even though they're smaller, but they all have apartments above. There's a lot of pre-existing non-conforming buildings in Montauk that have apartments above, which I think is great. It brings to the liveliness of the building, of the area downtown. A 72-hour parking range is good for individuals might be living above there to be able, if they wanted to go into see a game, sporting event, into New York City or to somewhere for a long weekend. So that's why that number was thought to be as reasonable. But yeah, it's trying to find a number that works in this location. We would have to go to, no matter what, to a public hearing for all of this. Right. I would maybe try to recommend us going to a public hearing for these parking lots to see exactly what the turnout might be and comments might be, and maybe we leave South Erie to a greater discussion now that we're discussing it now. If that was a longer length in there, but at the same time, it's not necessarily a place that's overly habitually taken advantage of. But again, we don't want it to become one either. So in this round, as we've done previously in the last couple of years, and looking at downtown Montauk's parking, since we added the paid parking, maybe we stick to the parking areas and we reevaluate South Erie. What I can do is draft this language if because there's going to be multiple code changes here for all the locations. I'll draft the language, send it around the board. We'll let it marinate a little bit. Sure. If we hear from individuals, it'd be great. We look forward to doing that as always. but we can try to start drafting this because the backstop again would be Memorial Day. Take that back. You have the public notice.
Right.
Wait for the state.
Signage and all
Wait
that.
the state to
right.
come back. So this is the time to start looking at it. And as it's being discussed in the CICs and here, we look forward to hearing from individuals. But I'll draft the language, get it out there. And if this is something that we believe we can move forward ahead, maybe we get to a public hearing end of March. And we'll go from there. How does that work for everyone right now?
That works.
And
And
we'll
also
do the
maybe-
parking lots and not ERES at this point. right now.
Maybe, I don't know if you've already spoken with John Rooney, the Recreation Department that manages the fields and book the fields to
Sure.
see if they've seen a problem there as well.
I'll check with them and let everyone know. But again, part of this is a global approach to parking in all of our hamlets, and I appreciate the time. And Tom, thank you for bringing this forward, particularly some of the locations that might be in needed turnover since some businesses have changed.
Okay. So now we're going to move on to liaison reports. Tom, if you want to start us
Thank you.
off.
Yes. Last night I met with the Amagansett Citizens Advisory Committee, and well, first topic I'll go to because it's related. There was quite a deal of discussion around the long-term parking lot there, that the long-term spaces there are actually saturated and residents are having trouble. They go there to park to take the jitney overnight, and what should they do? They have to park in a yellow space, and so my advice is document it, take a picture of the full parking lot. We can, if you do get a ticket, we can try and address it on the back end. But I do think potentially we need to have a look, go back and look at that plan, look at the number of long-term lots, spaces in that lot, and there is a need to increase potentially.
Can I stop 1 second?
Yeah,
Go back
sure,
just
sure,
a little
sure.
bit?
Yeah.
Sorry, I put my hand on.
Yeah,
it,
that's
I
all right.
guess.
That's all right.
One of the things also with the parking lots is many of them need to be restriped also. So that is something that we're looking at, restriping them. So part of the timing wise, so we restripe appropriately, like the parking lot behind Plaza, you can barely see the spots right now.
Right.
And finally we have snow, they get scraped off. So we'll look at those long-term effects on there. So that's been one of the things we'll have to do in these spots also, and timeliness on there. But yeah, sorry, Tom.
Yeah.
And
No.
that's something I wanted to mention, but
No worries.
skipped my mind.
Additional discussion with zoning code, with public hearing coming up for that, obviously, we noticed. Cranberry Hall Bridge Road, I did communicate to that committee the letter from Senator Palumbo and Assemblyman Schiavone to the CEO of MTA, Mr. Lieber. One of the questions that came back with this is what is the MTA estimating for the cost of this bridge repair? And I didn't have an answer to that, so it would be interesting. We could reach out to them and find out what.
It's somewhere between 16 and $20 million.
16 to 20 million. Okay. Thank you. And then the other question they had is what other bridges in the town are actually managed by the MTA? Because if this is the problematic nature we're going to face, if there are underlying issues with any other bridges they have, just to be ahead of the game on it. We're also delighted to host Lieutenant Tierney at the committee last night. She gave a very interesting discussion on a few topics. The initial kickoff was around the variable speed limits on Bluff Road. As you leave Amagansett, it's 35, but if you're coming back westbound in the same direction, there's a 45-hour speed limit. So it's just kind of explaining why that differential is there to the residents. It's considered by the DOT as a slowdown option. As people come off Napeague, they're doing 55, you go into a 45 and then a 35. But as you're leaving town, you're going into a 55, so you don't need that 45. We went through, is there a threat to public safety there as a result of those variable speed limits? Lieutenant Tierney kind of went through statistics. In that specific area where the variable speed limit is, no, that there's not been. Slightly further west, there was the fatality recently, but so it's not a public safety issue as such, which was explained to the committee that's how the DOT is going to make any determination if they do change any speed limits in that area. And lastly, for that committee, we did have elections last night. Rona Klopman was re-elected as chair, Vicky Littman was re-elected as vice chair, and Dawn Brophy was re-elected as secretary for the department.
So just to answer that question, there are no other bridges in the town that are vehicle bridges that go over the MTA. The nearest one would be on Wainscott Main Street or just north of it. That's the only one there, but that's out of our town jurisdiction.
Okay.
The rest of them we go under or we go just at grade. So it's not a bridge on there.
IT, we had I thought, a very successful walkthrough of OpenGov with some of our appointed boards, ZBA, planning, et cetera, just to kind of give them first insight into how that's going to work. I want to thank the IT department and the planning department for the immense amount of work they've put into that. As we talked with our finance department this morning, ability to use this is going to be such a benefit to community members and businesses as they work with the town. It's really part of the streamlined process that we're looking to kind of introduce with our modernization of government. The one thing I will say, there was some feedback as to, what paper copies might still be required by board members. The challenge there for us is that, internally we want to reduce paper because it creates work and has a cost, but externally there are needs for board members, and it's, do we need to invest in IT hardware, for board members to be able to bring information out to the field as they review sites, or are we going to maintain kind of a fairly strong paper presence? So that's just kind of a discussion we need to kind of look through as we move forward with that. Human services, we have a few cancellations this week. There's no functional fitness at Wednesday 11, there's no meditation on Wednesday at 1, and there's no chair yoga on Friday at 1. However, I do want to remind our 60-plus community about the residential repair program. We have a maintenance mechanic available to perform minor repair work on houses and apartments. The service is free and you only pay for materials. If you do have need for this service, say for putting a hand bar in your shaft or something like that, please call the Human Service Department 631-329-6939 and ask to speak to Liliana Rodriguez. Fire Marshal, just want to remind all businesses out there, the inspections will be starting for the new season. Just common failings, and I speak to this myself as a business owner, make sure your egress is completely clear, make sure your smoke and CO alarms are working, that all your fire exit signs illuminate with power outages, make sure your electrical outlets are all in working order, there's no cracked plates, etc., and please be wary of your extension cords running through your businesses. Sanitation, the sanitation department is going to be putting through that resolution for us to review for the proposed fees coming forward. ADU committee, we are looking to have a work session, final work session to review the feedback from the town and kind of recommend those committee changes to the code with regards to ADUs. Marine Museum, we've actually started some work on the restoration. Right now we're in the basement. We've had a survey done there of what needs to be done. So that's the first stage of us looking to kind of renovate that property as a whole. License to Review Board. Had a meeting with the attorney's office recently, and we're going to be sitting down to review the process with that. The village has informed the attorney's office that they no longer wish to have license review board done for their jurisdiction under the town. So I just want to make sure that everything kind of gets addressed with that realm as well. East End Fire Commissioners, the next meeting is scheduled for March 25th. It will be in East Hampton. Additionally with the fire commissioners, myself and the supervisor, Scott Wilson and Becky Hansen recently attended a meeting with the East End Fire Chiefs to discuss what the situation is with regards to the Napeague stretch. They gave a very detailed discussion, and I think I can kind of summarize it by saying that, per Chip Gorman, the head of New York State Parks, Napeague stretch and the management of the fire risk there is their #1 priority. So they are working on it. They're committing resources to it. There will additionally be a public meeting on February 13th at 6 p.m. at Montuak Downs. I do encourage residents to attend that. You'll kind of get a full overview of not only kind of how this situation came to be, but exactly what the management plan is for that area.
Can I also say we've asked LTV to film it, and
Yes.
they will be filming it, so it'll be available on YouTube too.
Special events and film, we do have a resolution coming the next week or so for new 2025 fees for us to discuss, along with work session to review that. So that's coming forward. Public safety, just want to remind people, and I will leave copies upstairs, that the East Hampton Police Department Citizens Academy is going to be starting in March. It's going to run from March 5th through to May 14th, their weekly meetings. I cannot recommend this program enough. It exposes you to, a lot of the challenges our police department face, but more importantly, the amazing job they do. So for anyone interested, you can grab an application from upstairs or reach out to the police department for an application for the Citizens Academy. Disabilities Advisory Board, we continue to look at playgrounds and upgrade with regards to updates for ADA requirements. We will be visiting the Montuak playground again in March with plans to introduce some changes there. East Hampton Youth Task Force, I just want to congratulate Montuak School. They had their science fair recently, and thank you to all community members who came in to help judge that. It was an outstanding event, and it's incredibly refreshing to see how the young minds in our community kind of view the problems we're facing and the solutions they come up with to address those. So thank you to these schools for organizing that. Anti-Bias Task Force, I've been hearing a huge amount, as I'm sure my colleagues have, with regards to the executive order we discussed in our last town board work session. The town continues to work on ensuring our critical documents are available to the public in both Spanish and English, and we're working with the Anti-Bias Task Force to coordinate. We've recently received some documents from the governor's office, from the attorney general, and we're just going to be looking to get those out there to the public and make them available so people understand what their rights are and what the law dictates. Business committee, we have a meeting next week. Emergency preparedness. Patrick, the Public Information Officer and Emergency Coordinator, are working on an update to the town pamphlet for emergency preparedness in the town website. The committee met last week. One piece of business that came out of that is they are universal in their support that the town should purchase a new generator for the Montuak Playhouse as one of the town's 2 emergency shelters. They see that as a critical need. I'm also working with Sergeant El Versa on high school education program for emergency preparedness, and he is reaching out to the superintendent to see how we can schedule that. Lastly, I've had numerous residents reach out to me with regards to bird flu. I did reach out to our emergency coordinator, and he's directing me to the CDC website. Just to speak to that a little bit, I'm going to give some statistics here just so people understand, what the scope of the risk is, because it's not significantly high, certainly not in this area at this point in time. So far in the United States as a whole, only 1 death has been associated with bird flu. There have been 68 confirmed total reported cases in the U.S., none of which have been in the New York State. Primarily, this has kind of really impacted the West Coast, Colorado, and Washington State. Probable human case summary during the 2024 outbreak. The CDC is not able to confirm H5 infection at this point in time. Just currently, with regards to the threat that's out there, the CDC is currently monitoring 14,000 people, just over. They've tested 700 people, and that's shown 64 human cases across the country. With regards to animals, there have been 11,000 wild birds have been detected as having the disease as of the 5th of February this year. There have been, get this number right, 156 million poultry affected as of February 6th this year. So, when we talk about egg prices, that is one of the drivers of what's been kind of leading to that. Additionally, there's been 959 dairy herds affected. So, what is going on with the CDC and how they're addressing this? The recommendations they're giving right now is that for citizens with regard to their own personal health, do make sure you get a flu shot. While it's not protecting you against the bird flu per se, the last thing you want to have is a corresponding to have the flu as well as the bird flu. So it protects your overall immune system. That is a recommendation they're giving there. I will give more updates as we hear them from the CDC. The only other piece I do kind of want to call out, and it's on the CDC's website as well, is that obviously changes are coming to the CDC with the executive discussion that's going on. That there is concern that CDC research on the flu might be affected by changes to the CDC and related programs, and that could potentially impact flu spread. So that's just concern that's out there.
So Tom, if I could just, I read this morning that the state now is going to be issuing some bird flu and disease information themselves.
That is correct. I actually have some of that here. It's largely based on what the CDC is saying. But yes, they do have their own information out there, and that's on the New York State website. Tick control, we will be setting up interviews with LTV and some of the medical specialists on our town committee to address misunderstandings related to tick-borne diseases. So the first two series will be done on Lyme disease and alpha-gal, when one of the committee members will be interviewing two of the town doctors who are actually global specialists in these diseases, just to debunk some of the myths that are out there with regard to that disease. And that is everything from my liaison report.
Thank you, Tom. David?
The Montauk Playhouse Aquatic and Cultural Center is progressing along as far as their installations there. Just this week, actually, as we mentioned here at town board meetings and also other CACs, the cryptomeria have been taken down. I want to thank Steve Lynch for his crews for assisting. We are now evaluating the damage that they've been doing to the gutters and on some of the sides, but that has been completed also. New York State is working on a guardrail project, which you can see out here in Montauk currently right now, but it's also going anywhere from Wings all the way through, and actually multiple other locations on the island. This has actually forced the town to revise our planning documents for the New York State rest stop over at Georgia Pond. We are moving forward with some of those changes, which just moves some of the filter areas on there. I'm going to be resubmitting, modifying our permit to the state DEC and also the Army Corps of Engineers. This should still keep us on the timeline for a potential fall 2025 installation on there. SCALP, which is the Suffolk County Aquaculture Lease Program. There is an application period that actually closes this Friday, February 14th, Valentine's Day for everyone out there. And they are looking for anyone that would like another site applications on there then too. So that moves forward. Please contact the Suffolk County Aquaculture Lease Program for further information. In Springs, the water quality, the IA system installation at the Springs Library has been delayed by weather, but that is still progressing forward. If anyone gets any questions or concerns on that, what the machinery is doing there, that's what's happening. Tom mentioned what the state's meeting on the 13th on there. Thank you for getting LTV there also. I think that's going to be very, very helpful, getting that out further if you can't make it that meeting then too. Two things, second to last right now, is I want to thank the supervisor and the town board for the support that they assisted with, and then also Senator Schumer's, Lolota's office, all our elected officials. We are anticipating the dredge Murden to be arriving on Saturday to do a dredging. It's supposed to blow this weekend and into Monday, but that dredging is going to be happening to remove approximately about 11,000 cubic yards of sand in that area and put it off a site area. This does not affect our CAP 107 deepening project, which is still on track to be done in the fall. Then too, it's a temporary emergency measure. So I thank all involved. I also thank all the fisheries and individual boat captains for alerting us to this and being very responsive to that also. Lastly, I want to thank Mrs. Vecchio at the Spring School. I went to my daughter's play at Guildhall, which is a very beautiful facility. Since they did it, it was actually Moana. They did 3 plays, one on Thursday for the parents and 2 for the kids of Springs on Friday. I was so heartful. I was crying almost to see my daughter perform up there, but all these children that were just put together a wonderful theater production of Moana, which is great. And I never watched it. Got 4 kids in there watching Moana, right? Got to do that now.
Great movie.
Yeah, it's fun. And they were just so happy on there, and it was so well put together. And I guess Mrs. Vecchio has done this a couple of years now then too, to be able to corral the cats involved in it. I think Montauk might have had something at their school this last week also, but it just shows that the protection of the arts right now, they get everyone. My daughter went from basketball practice immediately to theater practice. And that, I think, just provides a well-rounded child on there then too. To fund the arts, to protect the arts is extremely important, because in the end, they just were spectacular children up there enjoying it then too. And unfortunately, sometimes the funding of the arts becomes so political. But in the end, it provides something for children that they need going forward. I remember in 7th grade, I was on the John Drew Theater at that time for the Christmas Carol. My mom reminded me of it then too. And while I didn't really perform as well as my daughter. I did perform, and I do remember it. So I just want to let everyone know that that protection of the arts is needed, and it's needed in school districts. It's needed in school district funding on there to allow for children to try something different that they might not have ever done that. And I think that's inherent in what we should continue on. And so, thank you.
Was that Bree?
It was Bree. Yeah, she was. Hey. She was great. She was a satirical parrot. Very, very the exact same like she's at home.
Well
without
casted.
a costume. She was great. So thank you to Bree. Bree.
It's such an experience for kids to be
yeah.
able to perform at Guildhall,
Yeah.
especially now that it's been renovated.
Yeah.
Kate?
Yes, thank you, David. Definitely support the arts. It makes a big difference in people's lives. And I was a incredibly, you probably won't believe me, but incredibly shy child who never wanted to speak up in a classroom. I would have terrors about it. And through a school play, my teachers assisted me in being able to be the big mouth I am today. So it has meaning for kids, particularly when they're not so forward to begin with. Ditch Plains, I wanted to let the neighborhood know, the property owners have already been informed that they will see a wall bridge surveying out in the next coming days, weather dependent. We were hoping it was tomorrow, but it may be delayed a day or so to do the actual physical surveying for the dune placement. As we move forward on that project, the Wayne-Scott CAC held their meeting last Saturday. It was a week late, and it was via Zoom because I was unwell at the beginning of the month. And I had a meeting prior to that with Lisa LaCory and Tina Lagaren from the Planning Department about just taking the step forward for the Wayne-Scott implementation plan that was presented to the town board in July, and get a estimate from LK McLean for surveying work, so we can actually know what's what, where's where, and can maybe get it out of talking in concepts to being able to do some of that streetscape work that is important to the folks in Wayne-Scott. They also discussed the traffic safety presentation that's coming up on February 18th, where I'll be making some recommendations for some stop signs and crosswalks on Wayne-Scott, Maine, and a few other Wayne-Scott Stone Highway, and there's a pretty, they were happy with the presentation. And then they also had members from the Wayne-Scott Heritage Project there talking about the public hearing we had on 66 Main Street, and I believe they're sending out a letter in support of a historic designation for the property. I met with Gloria Frazee from the Sustainability Committee to talk about her and the committees, some of the committees' projects for 2025. One, now that we've done some composting pilot programs to introduce the community to composting. Next, she would like to introduce the community to composting, backyard composting, which would again cut out on unnecessary travel and get further reduce compost and food scraps from the waste stream. And it's super easy, and people can just do it in their backyards. So we'll be coming forward with presentations and ideas for that. We also talked about signing on to Earth Hour. We'll have another discussion about that. That is where we kind of like the National Litter Pickup Day or a Bike to Work Day. This is where you don't use electricity for an hour, and it'll be a global moment. So Gloria will be bringing that forward as well. And right now, that's my report.
Thank you, Kate. Ian?
Yes, the Ag Advisory Committee will meet this Thursday at 5 p.m. We're having a little bit of a difficulty with location because in the two other locations we've used, they're occupied. So this will be at 231 Panago Road, right next to Carissa's. It is open to the public, so anybody is welcome to attend. And again, that's at 5 p.m. on this Thursday. And those meetings will be scheduled for the second Thursday of every month, although historically, that committee doesn't always meet during the peak farming season because everybody's busy. They've been discussing site plan amendments to clarify site plan procedure for agricultural properties and how they might be different than residential or commercial site plans. So that'll be, I think, a big part of the discussion. The last meeting with them, we also spoke about them presenting before the town board, doing a sort of state of agriculture, which I think would be a very good idea because it's a important historic industry here that's clearly changing and has challenges, and I think it would help us all to be familiar with it.
We've also talked about for those folks that, lease farmland from the town to come in and give us an update on what they're working on and how it would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be good to hear from that part of the community. I think farming, fishing, the more we stay connected with those historic industries, the better off we'll all be. Property Management Committee, there was actually a subcommittee meeting last week. The focus of that subcommittee is the Dodge Property Management Plan, which is a beautiful historic property in the heart of Springs, which is the hamlet I represent. And the heart of Springs is such a beautiful area there. And the Dodge property is a very important part of that. I hope to bring a management plan to the town board within the coming months and ultimately find a licensee or a use for that property to keep it in its current state. The Springs CAC, we've sort of had a crisis without a home here. The last meeting was at Spring School, which was quite confusing to people of exactly where to go. And so I'm happy to report that we'll be meeting next Tuesday and the third Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. at Ashwag Hall. Again, there have been some scheduling conflicts and there may be an occasional miss there, but that will be the expected meeting place for Springs CAC, so everybody knows. And I greatly appreciate the Springs Improvement Society welcoming us there. And that's, again, another, I think, lovely asset in Springs that is so important to the community. The last thing I wanted to talk about is I did receive a couple of calls for people wondering why the town hadn't plowed their road. And I think in most cases, it's because you live on a private road or an urban renewal road that's not part of the town highway system. So I say that only that you should make sure you're aware if your road is part of the highway system or not, and if the town will provide services, so you don't find yourself in a situation where you expect, your road to be cleared and are without that. So that's all I have.
Right. I will say that the highway department did an incredible job getting the roads cleared, getting the sanding done, spreading the salt, and then plowing through the night. So roads were clear on Sunday morning. I have a resolution on for today that, which is an unusual thing. We have to move our next Tuesday's work session to a later start time. So we're going to be starting our February 18th work session at 1 p.m. LTV, Jason, you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Great, thank you. And that's because there's going to be a site visit of the Montuak Inlet Emergency Dredge, and that's Tuesday, February 18th at 11 a.m. And our federal and county and local representatives will be there. Congressman Lalota will be there, County Executive Ed Romaine, our New York State officials. We're going to have town board members, local fishermen, and we've also going to have the Army Corps of Engineers and DEC representatives. So we have a very short window where we could have this site visit while the
Governor Hochul's office.
Governor Hochul's office, thank you. It's a very short window when we can have this event because, as David mentioned, the dredge is coming sometime on Saturday. And there's some pretty gnarly weather heading our way over the weekend. So we're assured by the Army Corps that the dredge will be here on Tuesday morning. So that's why we're going to shift our meeting with a 1 o'clock start. We'll post that all over social media. Carol has said she'll put it on townclerk.com. And we just want to get the word out so that folks don't show up for the meeting at 11 at Town Hall when it's not going to start till 1. So that's what I have for today. We have a few resolutions before us. Tom, if you could get us started.
Yes, thank you, Madam Supervisor. First resolution is 2025-301. This is to authorize payment for some old invoices from August 20th, 2022 and August 29th, 2023. Total amount for these is $1,948.88.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I'm happy to offer Resolution 2025-302. This is authorized employee training in the aquaculture department, which allows John Dunn to participate and attend the Northeast Shellfish Sanitation Association meeting in Riverhead on April 2nd and 3rd of 2025. Financial impact is $180.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 303 is to accept a grant of a large lot easement. This is where the town board held a public hearing on February 6th and resolved that the town hereby accepts the easement listed below. The grantor is Michael Jello and Susan Agello. It's a large lot easement at 19 Fenwick Road and 13 Fairview Avenue, Montauk. Tax map number 300-19-08-21 and 22.1. The reviewing agency is the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 304 is to amend Resolution 2025 to 0233, and this is just to amend it to a correct budget account.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I have Resolution 2025-305, and that's to approve a service agreement. The chief of police is hereby authorized to enter into an agreement with Motorola for maintenance and repair services as set forth in the proposal, and for the amount for 2025 will not exceed $12,750.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
306 is to authorize a payment for Verizon Wireless. This is for the Human Resources Department. There's been a number of, between June and November, actually June and December, that payments haven't been made. The financial impact is $234.22.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we're back to Tom.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
Thank you very much. 307, this is to terminate part-time temporary employee Brenda McPherson, whereas the following employee was appointed by the town board resolution, be it resolved that the employee is hereby terminated from this position effective retroactive to the date listed below, 9/22/2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 2025-308 is to amend hourly rates for full-time employees promoted in 2025, retroactive to January 1st, 2025. Names, budget accounts, grades, hourly rates, and annual rates listed below.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. 309 is to adopt local law amending chapters 246 waterways and boats to transfer particular duties of the town clerk's office to the harbor master of the town of East Hampton.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I have Resolution 310, which is authorized payment of prior year invoices for the Wayne Scott Hamlet services. And this is invoice for Flinkler Arts and Sciences and L.K. McLean, and the amount is $7,500 to Fine Arts and Sciences, and $8,650 to Dotson and Finkler, and $4,425 to L.K. McLean and Associates.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I'm amending this resolution number. Okay.
And this is how it's going to read.
Okay, thank you, Carol. So the next resolution up is Resolution 2025-311. I'm going to amend the resolution, starting with the resolution number. So the resolution number 311 is good?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to read this as amended. Amend Resolution 2023-1220, whereas pursuant to Resolution 2023-1220, the town board retained the professional engineering service of Vincent Gordello and Rayner Group to review drainage plans and similar items related to the planning department's review and urban renewal matters for the planning department, planning board, and zoning board of appeals. Whereas said services were not to exceed $25,000 pursuant to Resolution 2023-1220, and it has been determined that the cap should be increased to pay for the following outstanding invoices. Invoice number 240012, site plan and subdivisions, in the amount of $1,257.75. Invoice number 240011, Olds Filed Map Road Improvement, in the amount of $1,985.50. resolved that the cap should be increased by $3,243.25 for a total of $28,243.25 with available funds from the 2024 appropriate budget line and outstanding invoices to be paid upon submitted voucher.
Second,
All in favor?
As amended.
As amended.
as amended.
All in favor?
I have Resolution 312, which is to amend Resolution 2024-1367, increase not to exceed amounts for the Wayne Scott Commercial Center. And this is resolved that Resolution 2024-1367 is amended to increase FPM Group not to exceed the amount of $22,000, $22,336 in pay invoice number 23-17-671 in the amount of $1,336.44, and resolve that Resolution 2024-367 is amended to increase the not to exceed amount for AKRF from $141,000 to $146,241.82 and pay invoice number 58023 in the amount of $18,950. Resolved that the invoices will be paid from the appropriate budget account for 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 313 is to authorize payment of prior invoices to Cityscape. The invoices are listed below, and resolve that the planning department will pay the outstanding invoices in the total amount of $17,300 payable from the 2024 appropriate budget account.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 314 is to authorize payment of prior year invoices for Cityscape Master Plan, where it's been identified that certain 2023 outstanding invoices relating to the town's master wireless plan adopted through Resolution 2020-1069 remain outstanding. Whereas through a review of the past years and current invoices, the unpaid 2023 projects are invoice number 5476, MP Development, Task A, Regulatory Review and Recommendations in the amount of $6,375. Invoice number 5476, MP Development, Task 5, Draft of Wireless Study in the amount of $6,525. Resolved that the total sum of $12,950 be paid for outstanding invoices to Cityscape Consultants.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 315 is to amend Resolution 2024-100, and this is to amend the not to exceed amount for Dotson and Flinker, and resolve that Resolution 2024-101 is hereby amended to increase the not to exceed amount for Dotson and Flinker from $26,000 to $30,000, and any invoices to be paid from the appropriate budget account for 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2025-316 is the 2024 budget modification for the retiree health insurance, removing $3,843 from workers' compensation to health insurance retiree.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
317 is to schedule the meeting start time for the February 18th, 2025 meeting to 1 p.m. And this will be in the Town Hall main meeting room, Town Hall.
Second as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything else they'd like to bring up?
I do not.
So I'd like to make a motion to go into executive section for CPF, personnel, real estate, litigation, leases, and contracts.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, LTV.